You ever notice, if you've been paying attention, a few years ago, there was somebody named converted to Islam. He goes now nowadays he goes by the name of Neil Littleton. I can't remember his last name, but his first name is Neil. I know that for sure. But anyways, a few years ago, he made a video saying why I left Islam, and before that he was a pretty well known YouTuber amongst the Muslims, amongst Muslim circles. His name was Converted to Islam. He was a Christian who converted to Islam. Then in 2016 he left Islam, and I noticed there was something important I noticed about him, and I noticed this with other ex-Muslims who either became atheist or who became Christian. But it seems like there's a rise of ex-Muslims now. There was only one ex-Muslim I knew of who was a confirmed Muslim and left Islam, and that's Farhan Qureshi. So he was the only um, Muslim I knew who left Islam. He was like a legitimate ex-Muslim. He's the only one I knew personally that left Islam. And then he became, I don't know what, he became atheist, then he became agnostic, then he became universalist, then he became a Hindu. So he just kept jumping around from religion to religion. But anyways, um, one of the things that this person caught my attention, I didn't notice this before, but now I'm beginning to notice it, is when converted to Islam, left Islam, he, no, I'm sorry, when Neil was a Muslim, he never asked for donations. Not once did he ask for donations. After he left Islam, after he became a Christian, and he changed the YouTube name from converted to Islam to don't convert to Islam, he started asking for donations. He started saying, donate to my Patreon, donate to my PayPal, etc., etc. Then, so I noticed that, right? Because I used to follow him back in the late 2000s. Yeah, back in the late 2000s. Back then, I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't have any kind of resources back then. So I would just follow any kind of Muslim YouTube channel out there in the early 2000s. This is before the David Wood and Sam Shamoon, and this is before the David Wood Act 17 days when they were asking Muslims to defend their religion and things like that. This was before David Wood, so before the David Wood era. But anyways, back in the early 2000s, or I'm sorry, the late 2000s, I used to follow him, and not once did he ask for donations. I found that a very noble trait of his, that he was willing to work and do dawah. So that was a very noble characteristic. There was a very noble characteristic of him, and that's a characteristic of the Prophet Muhammad, because the Prophet Muhammad used to give all his money away in charity, or used to give all his belongings away in charity. So this was a very uh, noble thing he was doing, because Prophet Muhammad didn't care about wealth and money. And same thing with this Neil person. I think his name was Ishmael Abu Adam before he left Islam. But let's just keep calling him Neil, just to keep it simple. Neil never asked for money. He would always do dawah. He never asked for any kind of donations or anything like that. Now, to be fair, I don't think Patreon was there in 2007, 2008, those areas. I don't think there was a such thing as Patreon back then. So I mean, but there were other ways you could ask for donations too back in the late 2000s. So anyways, but regardless, even when those donation sites became more and more prevalent in the 2010s, basically, he never asked for donations. He never asked for any kind of donations, things like that. After he left Islam, and after he left Islam, he started asking for donations. He set up a Patreon account. He set up his own donation sites, et cetera, et cetera. So he started asking for donations. So, to be honest, he's not the only one. I'm not going to single him out for doing this. A lot of other ex-Muslims, so-called ex-Muslims, would do the same thing. They would leave Islam and then they would ask for money and then they would get money. People like what's his face, apostate prop. Well, not I don't know about him, but Abdullah Samir, I know that. Who else? These other ex-Muslims. They would always ask for money. The master of Harris Sultan. No, I don't think Farhan Quraysh did that, but regardless, all these ex-Muslims, Abdullah Samir, the master of Harris Sultan, who else? Neil Littleton, the don't convert to Islam Christian guy. Regardless, like a lot of these ex-Muslims, after they would leave Islam, they would ask for money, and I found that my thoughts on that is it just shows just how bankrupt they are, right? Because like when they were Muslims, they were never asking for money. Most of the time they weren't asking for money. People like Abdullah Samir and Neil, they weren't asking for money. They were just do things on their own, or they would finance their own operations, their own dawah operations. But when they leave Islam, they ask for donations. They set up their Patreon accounts and they set up their what do you call it, PayPal, Subscribestar, et cetera, whatever. Patreon is usually the more popular. I think some of them have GoFundMe, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, they set up their own like donation sites to donate to their anti-Islamic cause. And I just I don't know. I like my thing is that, or my thoughts on that is, it just shows that just how bankrupt they are after they leave Islam, right? Because before before they leave Islam, they're not asking for money, but after they leave Islam, they're asking for money. And the hilarious thing is they actually, the surprising thing is they actually get money for leaving Islam. People do donate to them, which I find kind of disturbing. So these ex-Muslims, they're well financed, they're well. These ex-Muslims and these critics of Islam, but I'm not focusing on them on this video. I'm just focusing on the ex-Muslims. These ex-Muslims, who leave Islam and either become atheist or Christian, whatever. They're well funded. They get a lot. They get a lot of money. They get a lot of financial support. And I noticed that Muslims don't do that. Like I don't do that. And other Muslim apologists don't do that. There were two Muslim apologists I knew who never did that, and they're not so active anymore. One of them was Sami Zathari. He never asked for donations from anybody, and another was Bassam Zawadi. He never asked for donations either. They're not active in apologetics anymore. And then people like Nader Ahmad never asked for donations. Shabir Ali, who's active now, who's still active, I'm sorry, never asked for donations. I'm active in apologetics. I never asked for donations. So a lot of Muslim apologists actually don't ask for your donations. They don't ask for money because they have more integrity or they have more honor than that. But these ex-Muslims are becoming more and more shameless as they're leaving Islam and they're asking people for money to finance their anti-Islamic their anti-Islamic activities. So it just shows that when you're Muslim, you're rich. Not only are you spiritually rich, but you can finance your own operations, your own dawah operations. But when you leave Islam, you're broke. Not only you're spiritually broke, but you're literally broke. That's why you got to ask other um, you know, like-minded haters of Islam to finance your or donate to your causes. So I find that sad and disturbing. At the same time, that Islam is it's such a targeted religion. Even though it's a minority position in America, it's still the most hated, the most persecuted, the most talked about, the most criticized religion out there, and the Muslims are literally, even though they're a minority amongst a minority. There's not even a million Muslims in a mission. I'm sorry, there's barely a million Muslims in America, right? They're so persecuted. They're so uh, uh, criticized. They're so targeted. In the media, not only in Fox News and whatever, but on the in real life, right? I've had some Arab. I had these Arab kids tell me that their mom was constantly harassed because she would wear the what do you call it, the hijab. So it just, I don't know. It kind of makes me sad, but it makes me more confirm that Islam is the truth, because the Prophet Muhammad himself was persecuted for his beliefs in Mecca, and he was persecuted for his beliefs in Medina. So if you're a Muslim, you're not going to get the fame, you're not going to get the money. We're not in it for the fame, we're not in it for the money. We're in it for submission to the will of God, not submission to the will of Muhammad, but the submission to the Creator, to God. So, I mean, being a submitter to God, you're not going to get the attention, and you're not going to get the fame, and you're not going to get the money, right? You just do it because it's the right thing to do. In doing the right thing, sometimes it's a lonely journey, and sometimes there's no reward to it, and there's no worldly reward for it. But keep in mind, we don't live for this world, we live for the next. Stay tuned, a lot more videos are up ahead.